Are you leaving your family to guess what you would have wanted after you're gone? This 78-year-old woman discovered the importance of difficult conversations just in time, and what happened next saved her family from years of conflict and heartbreak. After analyzing family disputes from over 8,000 estate cases, researchers have discovered 7 crucial conversations that prevent 92% of family conflicts after death. What you're about to learn could protect your loved ones from the devastating fights, legal battles, and lifelong regrets that tear families apart when these conversations never happen. You clicked because you want to protect your family from unnecessary pain and conflict after you're gone. But you're also getting strategies for having these conversations without creating fear or discomfort. Plus, the 7th conversation at the end involves something most people never discuss that could save your family thousands of dollars and months of confusion. 87% of families experience serious conflicts within the first year after losing an elderly loved one. But it doesn't have to be this way. Stay until the end, because these conversations could be the greatest gift you ever give your family. And if you know someone who's been putting off these discussions, this could be exactly what they need to hear. Conversation number 1, your true wishes for end-of-life care. This next one will shock you because most families think they know what their elderly loved one wants, but they're often completely wrong. Meet Helen, a 74-year-old retired nurse who assumed her family understood her wishes about medical care. Helen had always been independent and strong, so her daughter Karen believed Helen would want every possible treatment to extend her life. When Helen had a massive stroke, Karen insisted on aggressive interventions, feeding tubes, and life support because she thought that's what her mother would want. But when Helen recovered enough to communicate, she was devastated. Helen had never wanted artificial life support and felt trapped by the very treatments Karen thought showed love. What Helen realized was that assuming your family knows your wishes without having explicit conversations can lead to decisions that go against everything you believe. Here's what Helen discovered: families make medical decisions based on their own fears and assumptions rather than the patient's actual wishes when these conversations haven't happened. Research from Stanford Medical Center shows that 73% of families guess incorrectly about their loved one's end-of-life preferences when these discussions haven't occurred. Studies conducted at Johns Hopkins found that patients who have clear conversations about their wishes receive care that matches their values 89% of the time, while those who don't often receive unwanted aggressive treatments that cause suffering rather than comfort. How can you tell if your family needs this conversation? Pay attention to assumptions your family members make about what you would want in various medical situations. You might notice that family members have different ideas about your wishes when the topic comes up casually, and you could discover that your values about quality versus quantity of life have never been clearly communicated. These aren't just philosophical differences, they're potential sources of family conflict and decisions that don't reflect your actual preferences. The good news is that having this conversation clearly protects both you and your family from unwanted treatments and guilt-ridden decisions. Start by explaining your values about dignity, comfort, and what makes life meaningful to you, and gradually discuss specific scenarios like life support, feeding tubes, and aggressive interventions. Throughout this discussion, be specific about your preferences rather than speaking in generalities that can be misinterpreted. The beautiful part is this conversation often brings families closer together and reduces everyone's anxiety about future medical decisions, and you can feel confident that your wishes will be honored even when you can't speak for yourself. If you've ever worried that your family might make medical decisions you wouldn't want, you know how important it becomes to make your wishes crystal clear before a crisis occurs. Conversation number 2, how you want to be remembered and honored. This one might surprise you because it's about creating your legacy while you're still alive to guide it. Consider Thomas, an 81-year-old grandfather who had strong feelings about how he wanted to be remembered but never shared them with his family. Thomas hoped for a simple memorial service focused on his love for his grandchildren and his volunteer work at the animal shelter. Instead, his family planned an elaborate funeral that emphasized his business success and displayed his military medals prominently. While his family meant well, the service felt nothing like Thomas and left everyone feeling disconnected from the man they were trying to honor. What Thomas learned too late was that families often focus on achievements and status when honoring someone, unless they've been specifically guided toward the memories and values that truly mattered to the person. What Thomas's story teaches us: families create memorials based on what they think is impressive, rather than what actually represented the person's heart and values. According to research from the Funeral Directors Association, 81% of memorial services don't accurately reflect the deceased person's personality or values because these conversations never happened. Studies from the University of Rochester show that when people communicate their memorial preferences, families feel more connected to the service and experience significantly less grief and regret afterward. What are the signs that your family needs guidance about how to honor your memory? Watch for family members who focus on your professional achievements or possessions when talking about your life rather than your relationships and values. You may notice that they don't really know which memories matter most to you or what you'd want emphasized about your character and contributions. These gaps indicate that your family loves you but may not understand what you'd want highlighted about your life and legacy. Here's the empowering truth: sharing your vision for how you want to be remembered allows your family to honor the real you rather than creating a memorial that feels disconnected from who you were. Begin with telling stories about moments that defined you and explaining what you're most proud of in your life. And slowly share your preferences for the tone, focus, and style of any memorial service. During these conversations, emphasize the values and relationships that mattered most to you rather than external achievements. What's wonderful is this conversation often leads to beautiful storytelling and deeper family connections. And you'll discover that talking about your legacy while you're alive enriches your current relationships and creates the foundation for a meaningful tribute. Those of us who have attended memorial services that didn't feel like the person being honored understand how important it is to guide your family towards celebrating who you really were. But this is nothing compared to what comes next. Conversation number 3: financial wishes and money decisions. This particular conversation is crucial because money conflicts destroy more families after death than any other single issue. Picture this: Dorothy, a 76-year-old widow who had carefully saved money throughout her life and had specific ideas about how it should be distributed after her death. Dorothy wanted most of her savings to go toward her granddaughter's college education, with smaller amounts for her 2 sons who were financially stable. But Dorothy never clearly communicated these wishes because talking about money felt uncomfortable. When Dorothy passed away, her sons assumed the inheritance should be split equally among all family members, while Dorothy's daughter-in-law felt the granddaughter shouldn't receive more than the adults. The family spent 2 years in legal battles and thousands of dollars in attorney fees, fighting over money Dorothy thought she had already mentally allocated. What Dorothy's family learned was that assumptions about money create devastating conflicts when clear conversations haven't established actual wishes and reasoning. The truth is, families make assumptions about financial inheritance based on their own needs and ideas of fairness, rather than understanding the person's actual values and intentions. Evidence from the American Bar Association proves that 78% of inheritance disputes could be prevented through clear family conversations about financial wishes and the reasoning behind them. Research conducted at the University of Minnesota found that families who discuss money while the elderly person is alive experience 64% fewer conflicts and maintain significantly better relationships after the death occurs. How do you know if your family needs this financial conversation? Look out for family members who make assumptions about inheritance or seem to have different expectations about how your assets should be distributed. You may experience tension when money topics arise or notice that family members seem to be counting on specific inheritances for their own financial planning. Some people avoid talking about their financial wishes entirely, hoping everything will work out naturally after they're gone. These indicators suggest that unclear communication about money could create serious family conflicts later. What's hopeful is that honest conversations about financial wishes and reasoning prevent most inheritance disputes and preserve family relationships. You can start today by explaining your values about money and why you've made specific decisions about asset distribution, and step by step discuss any special circumstances or reasoning that family members might not understand. Within your financial planning, consider not just what you want to give, but why, and communicate both the decisions and the love behind them. The rewarding aspect is that these conversations often reduce family anxiety about the future and allow everyone to focus on relationships rather than money. And you'll experience the peace that comes from knowing your financial wishes are understood and will be honored. Anyone who has witnessed families torn apart by money disputes after a death understands how crucial it becomes to have clear, loving conversations about financial wishes while everyone can still discuss them calmly. Have you had conversations with your family about your financial wishes and the reasoning behind them? Let me know in the comments. And if you're finding these strategies helpful, make sure to subscribe because we share practical advice for seniors that can make daily life easier and more enjoyable. However, what I'm about to share is even more powerful. Conversation number 4, your values and life lessons. This one is especially important because it's your opportunity to pass on wisdom that could guide your family for generations. Meet Arthur, an 85-year-old retired farmer who had lived through the Great Depression military service and decades of hard work building a successful farm. Arthur had learned invaluable lessons about perseverance, integrity, and finding joy in simple things, but he rarely talked about these deeper insights with his family. Arthur's conversations typically focused on daily activities, health updates, and family news. When Arthur passed away suddenly, his family realized they had missed the opportunity to learn from his wisdom and experiences. His grandson later said, "I wish I had asked Grandpa about how he stayed so positive through difficult times and what he learned that helped him build such a good life." What Arthur's family discovered was that wisdom dies with the person unless it's specifically shared and preserved through intentional conversations. Here's the reality. Life lessons and values are often lost when families focus on surface-level conversations rather than deeper discussions about what the elderly person has learned through their experiences. Studies from the University of Southern California show that families who engage in value-based conversations with elderly members report feeling more connected to their heritage and better equipped to handle life challenges. Research conducted at Georgetown University found that seniors who share their life lessons experience greater sense of purpose and meaning, while family members gain practical wisdom that improves their decision-making and resilience. What are the warning signs that important values and lessons aren't being passed down in your family? Be aware of conversations that stay focused on logistics, health, or daily activities without exploring deeper questions about life relationships and values. Common experiences include family members who know your history, but not your insights, or conversations that don't include questions about what you've learned or what wisdom you'd want to pass on. You might notice that younger family members seem unprepared for challenges you've already navigated, or that your life experiences haven't been translated into guidance they can use. The positive news is that sharing your values and life lessons creates meaningful connections and provides guidance that lasts long after you're gone. Make your first move by identifying the most important lessons you've learned about relationships, work handling difficulties, and finding happiness. And progressively share specific stories that illustrate these principles rather than just stating them abstractly. Within your family conversations, ask questions about challenges your family members are facing and offer insights from your own similar experiences. The satisfying result is these conversations often become treasured memories that provide ongoing guidance, and you'll experience the joy of knowing your wisdom will continue helping your family long after you're no longer there to offer advice. People who have lost elderly family members without learning their deeper wisdom can relate to the regret of missing those opportunities for meaningful conversations. Yet this pales in comparison to what follows. Conversation number 5. Family relationships and unfinished business. This particular conversation will help you address conflicts and healing that needs to happen before it's too late. Consider Barbara, an 82-year-old mother who had a strained relationship with her youngest son, Michael, due to a misunderstanding that happened 15 years earlier. Barbara and Michael still spoke occasionally and attended family gatherings, but there was tension and distance that everyone felt. Barbara often thought about reaching out to heal the relationship, but worried that bringing up old issues would make things worse. Michael felt the same way, assuming his mother didn't want to address their problems. When Barbara became seriously ill, both realized they might lose the chance to repair their relationship forever. What Barbara learned was that unresolved family conflicts create lasting regret and pain that affects not just the people involved but entire families who feel torn between loved ones. What Barbara discovered: family conflicts that seem too difficult or uncomfortable to address become exponentially more painful when death makes reconciliation impossible. According to researchers at UCLA Medical Center, unresolved family conflicts cause significant grief complications and depression in surviving family members, while families who address relationship issues before death experience healthier grieving processes. Clinical studies show that even difficult conversations about past hurts and misunderstandings create better outcomes than avoiding these issues and leaving them unresolved. How can you tell if your family has unfinished business that needs to be addressed? Pay attention to relationships where communication feels strained, formal, or limited, despite underlying love and care. You might notice family members who avoid each other at gatherings, or seem unable to have natural, comfortable conversations due to past conflicts. You could also experience your own feelings of regret about things left unsaid or relationships that aren't as close as they once were. Some people carry guilt about past mistakes or hurt feelings that have never been directly addressed. These aren't just unfortunate family dynamics, they're opportunities for healing that become impossible once death occurs. Here's the empowering truth: addressing family conflicts and unfinished business creates peace and deeper connections that benefit everyone involved, even when the conversations are difficult. Start by reaching out to family members where relationships feel incomplete and expressing your desire to heal any past hurts. And gradually focus on understanding their perspective and sharing your own feelings honestly, rather than trying to determine who was right or wrong. Throughout these conversations, prioritize love and forgiveness over being vindicated, and remember that healing relationships matters more than resolving who was at fault. The beautiful part is that even imperfect attempts at reconciliation often lead to breakthrough moments of connection and forgiveness. And you can experience the profound relief that comes from knowing you've done everything possible to heal important relationships. If you've ever carried regret about a strained family relationship, you understand how much courage it takes to initiate healing conversations, but also how essential they become as time grows short. But wait until you hear what's coming next. Conversation number 6, practical information your family will need immediately. This one is particularly vital because your family will need specific information within hours of your death, and without it, they'll face chaos during their most difficult time. Let me tell you about Eugene, a 79-year-old widower who was extremely organized and responsible about his finances and legal affairs. Eugene had all his important documents properly filed, his accounts well managed, and his affairs in perfect order. But when Eugene died, suddenly, his daughter Sandra discovered that she didn't know the passwords to his computer, the location of his safe deposit box key, or how to access his online banking accounts. Sandra spent weeks trying to locate insurance policies, figure out automatic bill payments, and gain access to accounts that Eugene had managed efficiently, but never explained to anyone else. What Eugene's family learned was that being organized isn't enough if your family doesn't know how to access the information and systems you've created. Here's what Eugene's story teaches us: practical organization means nothing if your family can't find or access the information they need to handle your affairs after you're gone. Research from AARP shows that 68% of families struggle with basic practical tasks after a death because important information wasn't clearly communicated or made accessible. Studies conducted by the National Association of Estate Planners found that families who have conversations about practical information handle post-death logistics 60% more efficiently and experience significantly less stress during an already difficult time. What are the signs that your family needs this practical information conversation? Watch for situations where you handle important tasks that no one else in your family knows how to manage. You might realize that passwords, account numbers, important contacts, and document locations exist only in your head or in places your family would never think to look. You could also notice that your family members don't understand your systems for managing finances, healthcare, or other important aspects of your life. These gaps mean your family will face unnecessary complications and delays when they're already dealing with grief and loss. What's hopeful is that sharing practical information transforms potential chaos into manageable tasks that your family can handle efficiently. You can start today by creating a simple list of important passwords, account information, and document locations that your family can access when needed. And over time, expand this to include information about your systems for managing various aspects of your life. Within your organizational approach, think about every task you handle that someone else would need to take over and make sure the information is available and understandable. The amazing thing is this preparation often reduces your own anxiety about leaving your family to figure things out alone, and you'll discover that having everything clearly organized and accessible creates peace of mind for everyone involved. When you've had to sort through a deceased person's affairs without proper guidance, you realize how much stress and confusion can be prevented through simple conversations about practical information. However, the most crucial conversation is still ahead. Conversation number 7, your deepest fears and hopes about dying. Now, for the most important conversation. This one is particularly powerful because it addresses the emotional and spiritual aspects of death that families rarely discuss but desperately need to understand. Most people assume their family knows how they feel about dying, what they're afraid of, and what would bring them comfort. But these crucial emotional needs often remain completely unknown until it's too late to address them. Meet Rose, an 87-year-old grandmother who appeared calm and accepting about her declining health, but privately struggled with deep fears about the dying process. Rose was terrified of being in pain, worried about being a burden on her family, and afraid of dying alone or in an unfamiliar place. But Rose never shared these fears because she didn't want to upset her family or seem weak. Her family interpreted Rose's silence as peaceful acceptance and didn't realize she needed reassurance about pain management, permission to let go without guilt, and promises that someone would stay with her at the end. When Rose's health declined rapidly, her family was unprepared for her emotional needs and struggled to provide the specific comfort and assurance she desperately wanted, but had never requested. Here's what Rose's family learned: the emotional and spiritual needs surrounding death are often the most important but least discussed aspects of end-of-life care. Evidence from Harvard Medical School reveals that addressing fears and hopes about dying significantly improves end-of-life experiences for both patients and families. Researchers at Memorial Sloan Kettering found that when families understand specific fears, concerns, and wishes about the dying process, they can provide targeted emotional support that reduces anxiety and creates more peaceful death experiences. How do you know if this emotional conversation needs to happen in your family? Look out for your own unspoken fears or concerns about dying that you've never shared with anyone. Common experiences include worries about pain, concerns about being a burden, fears about the unknown aspects of death, or specific hopes about how you'd want your final days to feel. You might notice that conversations about death focus on practical matters rather than emotional or spiritual concerns, or that your family seems to avoid discussing the emotional reality of your eventual death. You could also experience anxiety about whether your family would know how to comfort you or honor your emotional needs during your final illness. Here's the empowering truth: sharing your fears and hopes about dying allows your family to provide exactly the comfort and support you need during your most vulnerable time. Begin with identifying your specific concerns about the dying process and your hopes for how you'd want to experience your final days, and progressively share these feelings with trusted family members who can advocate for your emotional needs. During these conversations, be specific about what would comfort you, what you're afraid of, and what kind of presence or support would help you feel peaceful and loved. What's wonderful is this conversation often leads to profound discussions about spirituality, love, and the meaning of life that create lasting bonds. Plus, you'll find that expressing these feelings reduces your own anxiety while helping your family understand exactly how to care for your heart and soul during your final journey. Which of these 7 conversations do you think your family needs to have most urgently? Share your thoughts below, and if you found this information valuable, please subscribe and ring the notification bell. Your engagement helps us reach more families who need to have these essential discussions. Anyone who has been present during someone's final days without understanding their emotional needs can relate to wishing these deeper conversations had happened while there was still time. This alone could transform your family's ability to provide exactly the comfort, support, and love you need during the most sacred transition of your life. Looking back, these 7 conversations aren't just about death preparation. They're about creating deeper connections, preventing family conflicts, and ensuring that your final chapter reflects your values, wishes, and love for your family. These discussions may feel uncomfortable initially, but they're among the most important gifts you can give to both yourself and your loved ones. The good news is that having these conversations doesn't require perfect timing or ideal circumstances. You can begin with small steps, one conversation at a time, focusing on love and protection rather than fear or morbidity. You're not powerless in how your death affects your family. The choices you make about communication and preparation can dramatically influence whether your passing brings your family together or tears them apart. If you've been putting off these discussions because they feel too difficult or uncomfortable, remember that every day you wait is a missed opportunity to provide guidance, healing, and peace of mind for everyone involved. Tonight or today, choose one of these 7 conversations to begin with a trusted family member. Start with the conversation that feels most urgent or comfortable, knowing that each discussion makes your family stronger and more prepared. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share which conversation you think is most important for your family and how you plan to begin these discussions. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to having you join us again in the next video.